Siyum.
Welcome to our Siyum, our completion, our final day of Sunday school for this school year. We are terrific. We decided to call this day, in addition to a celebration concert, a celebration of learning, but also we called it Zoom Gali Gali, because Zoom Gali Gali is a song that the pioneers sang when the state of Israel was being started, and now everything is Zoom. And so we've got this, and so we decided to call today's concert Zoom. And first of all, I'm going to mute everybody except for the Cantor and Vadim. And so Zoom Gali Gali, this song is about the pioneers, that the pioneers enjoyed their work, and we are pioneering a new way of learning. And once we get back into the classroom, we'll be able to enhance it with online learning now that we're learning how to learn. And so let's hear Zoom Gali Gali.
Zoom Gali Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali. Echalutz leman avoda, avoda leman echalutz. Echalutz leman avoda, avoda leman echalutz. Zoom Gali Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali Zale, Zoom Gali Gali. Avana nera nera. Beshir ufkot toda, avana neranena. Beshir ufkot toda. Zoom Gali Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali, Zoom Gali Gali Gali, Zoom Zoom Zoom.
How good and pleasant it is for all of us to be together. The Psalms teach us how good and pleasant it is for brothers and sisters to be together. And even though we're in different homes, we are absolutely together. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
When I was a child going to Hebrew school, when we learned how to read Hebrew, we started off in a very different way than students do now. Because when I was growing up, Debbie Friedman had not yet started writing her songs. In fact, I met Debbie Friedman when she was very, very young. She was still older than I was, but I met her briefly. And when we learned, we always had a hard time remembering the order of the alphabet. But now that Debbie Friedman wrote this popular song, we know the order. And this is a favorite for all our religious school students, Aleph Bet Vet, composed by Debbie Friedman. One moment, Cantor, one moment. Even though you're mute at home, you can sing and follow and listen back and forth as the cantor is singing. So please sing along at home.
While we're here in Hebrew school, we're going to have some fun and sing the Hebrew alphabet, a song for everyone. It's going to be quite simple, 'cause all you have to do is sing the letters after me. Then I'll sing after you. Aleph, bet, vet, gimel, dal, and hey. Vav, zayin, chet, tet, yud, kaf, chaf, lamed, mem, nun, samech, ayin, pei, fei, tzadik, kuf, resh, shin, sin, tav. Let's learn the alphabet, simple as it can be. You learn the alphabet if you sing the letters after me. Each letter has a name and the sound that it always makes. Now let's sing the special chorus. We'll have fun, it will not bore us. It's the Aleph, Bet. Aleph, Bet, Bet. Gimel, Dalet, Hey. Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet. Yod, Kaf, Chaf. Lamed, Mem, Nun. Samech, Ayin, Pei, Fei. Tzadik, Kuf, Resh. Shin, Sin, Taf. Let's try it once again. Practice the alphabet. Each time we sing our song, then the easier the letters get. You sing it first this time. Sing it loud, let me hear your voice. I will hear you getting better as you sing each Hebrew letter. It's the Aleph, Bet. Aleph, Bet, Bet. Gimel, Dalet, Hey. Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet. Yod, Kaf, Chaf. Lamed, Mem, Nun. Samech, Ayin, Pei, Fei. Tzadik, Kuf, Resh. Shin, Sin, Taf.
So nobody can doubt that we have learned an awful lot in Hebrew this year and last year. Rabbi Dan Aronson has been such a wonderful addition to our staff. Not only has he helped our students with Hebrew, but he's done it in such a fun way, with Hebrew through movement, with games, with cahoots, with all kinds of things. And we're so delighted that he has been part of our staff and that he'll be returning next year. We're very, very excited about it all. And he has some words to say about the Hebrew program and some of our top students.
Yeah.
Rabbi Aronson, you're muted.
I am. Now I'm not. Now can you hear me? All right. Now everyone else is muted. Everyone telling me they can hear me, but I can't hear them. It's been a great year in Hebrew and very different from last year, because last year we did mostly Hebrew through movement and with a focus kind of on modern Hebrew and some vocabulary acquisition. This year we kind of did a little bit more old school. For our Aleph class, we relearned the alphabet, and each of the kids made a notebook with all of the letters of the alphabet going up through Mem, because after Mem, we all went into isolation. So next year, I look forward to completing that book with them. And we've got a whole bunch of more books to complete as well. So this is the book that we used for the, oh, you can't see that if I'm doing this background thing. Okay, let's turn off the background thing. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So this is what we used for our BETH class this year, and we've got a lot more to do in this. So next year, for next year's Gimel class, we'll start off with this. And this is the book that we used for the Gimel class. And for our Dalet class, we used the Hebrew phrase book and began to learn some conversational Hebrew. So that was a lot of fun. And I just, want to remind everyone that Hebrew, it's much easier to learn if we have regular attendance from everyone, because a lot of people miss some classes, so we always have to go back a little bit. But if we can all stay on the same page, literally, we can stay at the same pace in terms of our learning. So I will be sending out some kind of more Hebrew activities, probably create a Kahoot or two over the summer. And that was a lot of fun, creating the Kahoots and experimenting with teaching and learning through Zoom. I learned a lot this over the past couple of months with this. Now, I think all students are outstanding, each in their own special way. But I do want to recognize a student from each class who is really an example for the other people in that class for enthusiasm, sometimes for attendance, sometimes for attention. So they are examples of lots of different aspects of learning Hebrew. So I call them the Outstanding Performance in Hebrew Awards. So for the Aleph class, our younger kids, I wanted to first recognize, and I'm going to do a little screen share here. And just a second, I just realized I have to do something else. Maybe I don't have to do something else. Can you all see this? I don't know if I still had this spotlight on. Yeah, I know what I had to do. Okay, yeah, so sorry about that. So Leah Ramirez, Leah, was so enthusiastic about learning Hebrew that she became the teacher during several classes and would lead us, as CANTOR VADIM just did so wonderfully, in the Aleph Bet song. So she would stand up at the board with a pointer and point to all the letters of the Aleph Bet, and we would follow along with her. So I thought that was a great example for her fellow students to learn. And let's see, what we're going to do is going to go and say disable participants writing on the board. So I don't know if Leah, I don't think Leah is with us this morning. So the next person I want to recognize is from the BETH class. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So the next person is from the BETH class, and this is a person who regularly learned Hebrew outside of the classroom and with a family member by, I think, Zoom or Skype, and was able to bring a lot of that teaching into the classroom and served kind of as a teacher's assistant for me in the BET class. So I want to recognize Aaron Blumen for his outstanding performance in Hebrew in Kita Bet. So let's see, where are you? I can't see everyone right now, but Aaron's one of the people I can't see. But anyway, good, very good job, Aaron, wherever you are in the picture here. Next, we have our Gimel class. And I want to recognize someone last year who had a kind of a difficult time in Hebrew, but showed a lot of growth this year and a lot of maturity and just always great enthusiasm for learning Hebrew, especially doing the exercises in our book. Not that book, in this book. So I want to recognize for outstanding performance in Hebrew, Manny Miller. So very good job, Manny. And I think you set a good example for your classmates. And there were a lot of really, really great people learning Hebrew, great students in that class. I think Manny was just one of them, but this in no way diminishes really the really good behavior and great learning that I think that you all did. So finally, in the Dalit class, there is one person who was literally there, I think, almost every time. She might have missed 1 or 2 days, I'm not sure, but there were many occasions when she and I would do a tutorial because she was the only person there. And I also want to recognize her for her great growth and a new enthusiasm for learning Hebrew that I saw this year. So I want to recognize Vicky for her great performance in Hebrew as well. So we can give them all a great hand. And I can't hear everyone clapping because everyone else is muted. I also want to thank Miss Andrea for being a great co-teacher with me. We tried something new this year and split up Hebrew school so that she would take one class while I took the other class, and then we would switch. And I think that was an experiment that actually worked really, really well, Andrea. Andrea taught tefillah, and I taught really the basics of Hebrew decoding. And by doing it in kind of smaller sections like that, we were able to hold your attention a little bit longer and see what you really could do in terms of learning Hebrew. So thank you so much to Andrea. Thank you to Rabbi Dan for his support and for Carrie for your support. And I can't wait to continue our learning again next year, and we'll pick up where we left off before the isolation began. So I want everyone to have a great summer and want to end with a special word, lehitraot. See you later. And I'm going to stop my sharing.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Aronson. As I said, he's put a lot added a lot to our Hebrew program. And I'm glad you mentioned Ms. Andrea Miller because it's terrific to have someone who's enthusiastic and who's had Hebrew as part of her life for a long time. And so we think about how our learning is so special. And one of the things that reminds us of it is the spirit that we have for learning. And so Cantor has a special song about the spirit of learning.
Yes.
Not by might and not by power, but the Spirit alone, we all shall live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but the Spirit alone, we all shall live in peace. The children sing, and the children sing, and the tears may fall, but we'll hear them fall, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise, not by might and not by power, but the Spirit alone, we all shall live in peace, and not by might, and not by power.
All right. Well, very good. Not by might, not by power, but by spirit. Our spirit is what keeps us going. And now to talk a little bit about the spirit of some of our oldest students, we have Ms. Sherry Ellsworth to tell us a little bit about the confirmation class and to recognize some of what their students have learned.
So one, I wanted to just say a great big thank you and a congratulations to my 6th grade class. This year went very, very well. You had some wonderful ideas. You were all very attentive and thought-provoking and were very good at participating. So I wanted to say how much I appreciate that, and hopefully you will continue that next year. I think you learned a great deal, as well as was very thoughtful in your own ideas about Judaism and your own personal values of Judaism. And that was kind of what my goal was for this year. So y'all did a wonderful job. For the confirmation class, y'all were amazing. Y'all were so helpful in the classrooms and being so flexible and going from class to class and not being able to stay in one place, but to just get an idea of different age groups that you could learn to work with. And so hopefully throughout the time you got to at least visit most of the classrooms and most of the different age groups, so that you have an idea of where you would like to help participate even more as the next few years go on. So hopefully you have an idea of what age group you work the best with. And you may think that, hey, you worked great with all of them, and that's wonderful too. So I'm very proud of the fact that y'all were so helpful as within the classroom, but also as the community, part of the community. So that's part of the confirmation class as well, is that you are a very valued member of our congregation and that you participate in a variety of things, and you all stepped up and did a very, very wonderful job. And we're so very, very helpful, and we appreciate that tremendously. And so hopefully, I know we didn't get to do the book work that I wanted to accomplish, but I feel like the service that you did to our community in the temple was a little bit more valuable than just doing book study. So I want to thank you so very, very much for all the activities that you did and that you helped with, and that you kind of just jumped in and took over teaching a great deal of the time, which was wonderful. You all, I think, were very, very successful in that. And so I'm very appreciative of that. So we will continue that again next year. And I'm looking forward to seeing you blossom even more in being of service to the temple. And that's about it. So thank you guys. Have a great summer.
Hooray. One of the great things about Temple Beth Torah is that many of our older students are involved in helping out in so many ways. And we've had Tuss and Andrew especially as helpers throughout the whole year, and Shay as well, and Shayna rather. Shay was one of the students, and we're looking forward to Shay's bat mitzvah coming up. And in the elder class for the Hebrew, the group that worked specially with me was Tuss and Zinga and Rebecca Ramirez, and we had some wonderful discussions, and we were so excited. We had planned on having a triple bar bat mitzvah coming up, but because of the coronavirus, we decided to postpone that, and it was a bit of a disappointment. But the learning that we did with those 3 students really has been exciting, and I just really loved our discussions each and every week, and especially, even though it's not an important aspect, all 3 of these students came to Judaism a little bit later, and they've embraced their Judaism in very exciting ways. And so my heart goes to Tuss and Zinga and Rebecca, and I look forward to preparing for your bar and bat mitzvah before too long. And when it comes to our teachers, that I know Ms. Carrie's going to say something about it too, but the teachers, all the teachers, they volunteer, they put their hearts into it. They do such a wonderful job because they love children and they care for children. And my heart especially goes to, yes, every single one of them, but the teachers who came up through our religious school, Paige Daniels and Rebecca Schumann, who give that example of how they love the children and how they love Judaism, that makes such a world of difference. So I personally want to thank all the teachers, and especially Miss Carrie, who for so long has put so much energy into everything she does. She makes the school what it is. And so now Miss Carrie's going to say a few words about teachers, students, and everything about the school.
So it's been an interesting year. The last 5-6 weeks on Zoom has been a learning experience for all of us, but I especially wanted to thank all the teachers. They've done an amazing job. Rabbi Aronson for organizing and teaching our Hebrew program, to Rebecca, Paige, Andrea, Mike, Sherry for doing all the classroom teaching, and to our Madrakim, Tuss and Shayna and Andrew for helping out in all the classrooms. You guys have been amazing. And I think everybody's coming back in the fall. Yay. We're going to have a great year. We're looking at the calendar right now, deciding when we're going to be open and how we're going to do it. So everybody hang in there for emails and information of what we're going to be doing in the fall. We have some excellent attendance. We had several kids that were present more than 20 days. So the Eisenbergs have been here, were here 22 and 23 days. Aaron Blumen, Rachel Blumen, the Browns were all here, had great attendance. We had so many people with good attendance. Nzinga and Tuss, the Millers, Manny Miller, the Pillmans, Serafina Safford have had excellent attendance, but we had 2 kids that only missed 1 day each, and that was Manny Miller and Vicky Eisenberg. So they're both getting special awards, which will come their way in the mail, along with something special along with it. And then we've had 5 Zoom sessions. And in those 5 Zoom sessions, we've had, on average, 23 students attending those Zoom sessions, which is just that's amazing that you've all done that. And thank you to the parents also who attended along with their children and participated with us in lots of our discussions. We had a great discussion about family history where we had a lot of parents participating. So it's been an amazing end of the year, not quite what we had envisioned at the beginning of the year, but it's been a really good year. So thank you to everyone. Everyone have a fantastic summer. Maybe we can do some storytelling over the summer with Zoom if we can get some Hebrew books and some Jewish storybooks that we can Zoom with over the summer. So we'll look into doing that as well. So everyone have a great summer. Stay safe. Enjoy your backyards and parks. And we'll see you all in the fall.
Thank you again, Miss Carrie, for the wonderful leadership that you give. Carrie leads with love, and it's really so apparent about her enthusiasm and everything that she brings to Temple Beth Torah in so many ways. You can hear me? Okay. This is a journey. Everything we do is a journey, and as Carrie said, this year has been a very interesting journey because we have gone through so much and we're going through more. And so this is a blessed journey. And we've got a special song, again, written by Debbie Friedman about the blessing of going on our way.
You be blessed as you go on your way. May you be guided in peace. May you be blessed with health and joy. May this be a blessing. Amen. May this be a blessing. Amen. May this be a blessing. Amen. May you be sheltered by the wings of peace. May you be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way into your souls. May this be a blessing. Amen. May this be blessing. Amen. May this be our blessing.
Amen v'amen. Learning is a blessing. And one of the things that's exciting, the students in our religious school, I wonder if you've noticed that there are some people who come on Sunday mornings who are a little bit bigger, who are a little bit older, because learning is not just for students. being students is not just for children. Learning is for adults as well. And one of the things that excites me every week is we have that visual example of we see adults learning throughout the synagogue. We have one class that starts at 9:30 and another class that starts at 11:15. And we have lots of students, lots of adult learning different things every single week. And one of the prime examples of that is a man named Dan Coleman, who coordinates a lot of the learning programs and who has become such a passionate learner himself. And he didn't start his Jewish learning as young as y'all did. He started a little bit differently, and he didn't have a bar mitzvah at 13, but he had a bar mitzvah. And Dan is here today to talk a little bit about the importance of Jewish learning.
I am so jealous of all these young faces that got to begin learning Torah at such a young age. And I think the way to convey what's so important, always learn, is understand what is Torah. And we have like the Torah scroll in the synagogue with all these beautiful stories, but we know it's not a history book, because if the God wrote a history book, it wouldn't have all these gaps that didn't make any sense in it. And so when we look at what is Torah, we look at the written Torah, the scroll, we know that God gave the first 2 commandments to all the Jewish people, just so no one would say Moses isn't lying. He doesn't really know what he's talking about. So he made sure everyone heard them. And then Moses went up the mountain to learn all the Torah. And then it talks about how those 40 years in their desert, he sat in the tent of meeting, teaching all those laws. And if you look at really what Torah is, the translation of the word Torah means instructions. And so there's many different, Torah is much more vast than just what's in those scrolls. Matter of fact, I just grabbed this book off my bookshelf called Sefer Yetzirah, which means the book of formation. You won't believe who wrote this. Abraham. And Rabbi Akiva took his text and formulated it in this book. And we know in reading the written Torah that Isaac studied in a yeshiva, learning Torah. That was before Mount Sinai. So where did he get that Torah wisdom from? That came from Shem, Noah's son. So Torah, these instructions that God brought in the world have been there for a very long time. And to understand why did he give us these instructions, I think what's very telling is to know, why does God start counting time when he blows a soul into Adam's nostrils? Because one of the things we've known, we've been a little privy to some information that most of the world has not known. Like most of the world thought the world was flat, but not us, because it says in the Torah that the world was a sphere. We knew the exact measurements. We knew the exact distance in milliseconds for the Earth to turn on its axis. NASA didn't find that out until 50 years ago. We knew the distance from the different planets. We knew all these things. We knew the world thought forever that the universe was eternal and it was infinite. And when they discovered the Big Bang Theory, what did we say? Duh, we know that. We've been saying that for millennia. And something else that's interesting that gets in this book, because there's lots of deep insights called Kabbalistic ideas. And we know that in the Torah, it mentions creating Adam, or creating a man from the dust of earth. And a few verses later, it discusses creating man from the dust of earth and then blowing a soul into his body. Why does it mention it twice? Well, Rabbi Akiva, with the help of Abraham, it disclosed all this, because those were 2 different sets of men with a 15,000-year gap in between. Because we have to remember that on day 1, it wasn't a day like we know it, because the earth wasn't revolving on its axis. It's a much different timeline, right? And there's 15,000 years though. And he talked about destroying worlds and creating worlds. What we know now is the time of the Neanderthal man and dinosaurs. But he doesn't count that time. He tells us don't start counting time until Adam. Why? Because that was the first man that had a heavenly soul infused inside of him. That gave him a consciousness that connected us up here in our consciousness all the way through the heavens, all the way to God. And the reason it said don't start counting time until now is because now is when creation begins. The first part of creation was my job, just creating this world for you to exist in. But now creation begins, because now it's time for you to step in and help out. Because I want all of you to be co-creators in my world. We said, well, how are we supposed to know how to be a co-creator to perfect this world? So it's such a beautiful, fitting place that God can actually reveal himself. And that is through Torah. That is what gives us the instructions to make our intellect align with that of the Almighty, to make our emotive qualities align like that of the Almighty. I mean, people like Rabbi Dan don't become that sweet without studying Torah. That's what Torah does. It makes people sweet like Rabbi Dan. And it aligns our intellect, because what it's doing is allowing us to forge ourselves into the image of God so that we can complete his creation. Now, the year is 5780, and we were given a timeline of 6,000 years, although I've read a paper recently, this has been an ongoing dispute that calculation may be a little off. We may be about 100 years off, which means we have less time left on our timeline. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever I have a project at school or at work, I always seem to put off most of the heavy lifting until right before the deadline. So as you can see, we have on the high end 220 years left to finish creating God's world, to making it perfect. And so I know, looking at all these beautiful young faces, that a lot of work you have to help us do. You know, when as you get older, people are going to ask you, what do you do? People ask me that all the time, and I have to answer the question the way they ask. I say, I work in the investment business. And they'll ask you, and you'll say, I'm a student, or one day you'll say what you do for a living, but you have to always remember something very important. Even though you're answering the question the way they want it to be answered, know in your heart that the truth answer is, when someone says, what do you do? Is you know that God selected you to be a co-creator of his world, to build it to perfection. What an amazing, prestigious job that you all have. You know, people think, oh, the president of the United States, what an amazing job. A billionaire tycoon like Jeff Bezos, you know, or a world-class surgeon. Those are great occupations, but to be selected by the Almighty, to be a co-creator in his world, that's a pretty cool gig. And how do we get ready for it? We study Torah nonstop to get ready and do that job to the best of our ability. So I look forward to all these young people on the screen I'm looking at completing the job for us. And when God is able to come into this world and reveal himself in a much more visual way, much more physical way, that we know his presence is here, all as adults are going to point to all these young people and say, hey, you know what? We did our best, but these are the people that really brought it home and took care of it and got the work done. So I want to thank you all you young people in advance for taking on this massive assignment and getting the job done for us.
Thank you so much, Dan, and for all you do to go ahead and mute your say. For all you do to help encourage people who have graduated, people who are done with their childhood learning, to be able to keep going. This is our task. As he said, we complete the world. It's called Tikkun Olam, completing the world. I think somebody's got a microphone.
He got you.
Who's ever not mute, please.
It'll be.
There we go. That this becomes what we do together as a people, not just as a Jewish people, but as a world. That we are in partnership. That we are in partnership with God. We're in partnership to help each of us go. And a lot of it, you know, one of the books that I've studied is called the Talmud, which is where the rabbis of ancient times used to talk about all kinds of different things that they would try and understand together. And in the Talmud, one of my favorite sayings is, I've learned much from my teachers, even more from my friends, and most of all from my students. And so I have a little story about the appreciation of what we can learn from each other. And it's one of my favorite stories, and in fact, one of the very first stories I ever told at Temple Beth Torah. And it's a story about a young girl who every morning her mom would make her a wonderful breakfast. And one morning, she just felt so appreciative. And Vicky, we need you to stay mute. She would say she would be so appreciative of her mother's cooking And one day she said, Mama, that breakfast you made me today, especially the toast, it was just so delicious. Mom, I just need to thank you for the wonderful breakfast and the wonderful bread that came with it. And her mother said, well, don't thank me because I just got the bread from the baker. Maybe we should go thank the baker. And so the two of them went over to the baker. And the little girl said to the baker, Mr. Baker, my mother made me the most wonderful breakfast this morning, and she told me she got the bread from your bakery. Your bakery. And your bakery, I just want to thank you for the bread that you produced. And the baker said, well, don't thank me because I got the wheat from the farmer. I got the wheat from the farmer, so we should go thank the farmer. So they all went to the farmer. And when the little girl said to the farmer, my mother made me the most wonderful breakfast, and she got the bread from the baker who told me he got the wheat from you. Well, I want to thank you. And the farmer said, well, don't thank me, because how could I get such wonderful wheat if it wasn't a gift from God? And so God is who we need to thank for all of this. Now, I heard this story a very, very long time ago, and it really touched me. But as a storyteller, we have a little thing in storytelling called a tikkun, which is just like Dan Coleman was talking about with tikkun olam, fixing the world. Sometimes we hear a story that sounds really wonderful, but it needs a little bit of fixing. And I thought there was a tikkun in this story because the little girl and the mother and the baker and the farmer, they all acknowledge the importance of thanking God. And at the same time, it was just as important for them to thank each other, because God gives us that wherewithal. God gives us the power to do what we need to do, but God gives it for us, and we are the ones who have to do something with it. And so our appreciation in our prayer goes to God. But in this world, we also show appreciation for what we do with God's gifts. And here we are, appreciating each other, appreciating our teachers, appreciating our principal, appreciating our rabbis, appreciating the cantor for bringing the music to us, appreciating all of it. These are all God-given gifts. And this is our opportunity to move forward with everything God gives us and give that appreciation to God. And this is a siyum. The siyum, the completion of the year, is also about shalom. And as we pray for peace, we pray, Oseh Shalom, one of our most favorite songs, is a prayer for peace. Cantor.
Shalom bimroma, uyase shalom alenu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, uyase shalom alenu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, uyase shalom alenu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, uyase shalom alenu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru
Amen v'amen. As we go forward into a new year, we say, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. God blesses you and protects you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. God's face shines upon you and is kind to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. God's presence is with you to give you peace. As we go on our journey, let us celebrate all of our learning. Let us celebrate all of our accomplishments. Let us celebrate our appreciation of our teachers and our fellow students. Let us appreciate, most importantly, to life.
To life, l'chaim, 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 to life. If you've been lucky, then Monday was not worse, that Sunday was. Bring l'chaim to life, l'chaim, l'chaim, to life. One day it's honey and raisin cake, next day a stomach cake. Have written words of wisdom to be used when hardship must be faced. The life of life is a sweet hardship, so the words of wisdom shouldn't go to waste. To us and our fortune, be happy, be healthy in the life. And if all good fortune never comes, you do whatever comes. Bring the higher to life.
My friends, it's been a wonderful year, a challenging year, and we have lots to do. And so let's move forward and celebrate our life. Stay hydrated. Drink l'chaim. To life. Thank you, everyone, for an exciting school year. We're going to end the meeting now. And
thank you so much.
Yay! You are very welcome. Unmute everyone for a final goodbye.
Are we ending with Shema and the priestly blessing?
I already gave it.
Bye, everybody.
Shalom, shalom, chaverim.
Yes.
Okay. A big wave.
That's not right.
Oh, have a good time.
2, 1, shalom.
Say it again.
Shalom, shalom.
Fixed the hours. That's funny. Okay. Oh no, then you can't see. Bye.
Bye-bye.